Hey, what's up fellas? Koimaru here, and welcome to End of a Journey, a sort of sequel to the last game we played, Midnight on the Milky Way. And, well, I believe it's a sequel. I don't know if it's gonna have any of the same characters from Midnight on the Milky Way, because I feel like that was kind of the end of the story on the Milky Way Express game. But this one made by the same creator, and it looked really nice. It's one of their more recent games. It's I think their most recent one actually. So we should be in for a treat playing this one. I'm really excited actually. Let's just get into it. I don't know if this is a demo though, because on the page says it's a demo, but this game was made quite a bit ago. So I don't know if it's a demo still, or has it been completed, or something that's not gonna be completed. But let's read. It is said space is an impossibly cold, dark, and lifeless expanse. People who say such things have never really seen it. They've never seen the phantasmal meadows, or the light dances, or the school of comets that fly by so fast you would miss them if you blinked. They've never heard the rumbling across the galactic rails, or the babbling of freshly souled souls coming into their own through the fogs of memory. Such foolish people could never see it, because what is essential is invisible to the eyes. They've never truly been there, and they most certainly have never heard a story like this. The trolley was filled with laughing, cooing, excitement. The fascinated passengers pressed their whiskers to the windows to catch sights of the comets outside. Tails swished back and forth, and glints of silver tickets flashed between the crowd of bodies as a young girl with a basket wove between them. One for you, one for you, and one for you too. Gifts were exchanged for polite thank yous as the passengers marveled at the fantastical expanse outside. Far in the distance, there was a crack as a purple shock of lightning flew from the dark and off a nearby comet. Ooze overtook the car. There was warmth, there was light, but the only spark of life in the bustling trolley was the pitiful creature curled up in the furthest corner, gloved hands and iron grip around his knees. He was still, except for the small tremors that came from the car's natural rumbling along the tracks, or when another jovial passenger bumped into his side. His eyes were fixed on the floor and the spots visible between people. The happy din grew as he shrunk himself further. Go ahead, have one. A small hand reached out with paper flower, pinched between the fingers. The flower she looks like a Studio Ghibli creature. The flower was identical to the many contained in the girl's wicker basket, but the craftsmanship was remarkable regardless. The bud of the flower was kissed, a brilliant crimson. Looking out, the other passengers had their own crimson buds. It was like a garden for the dead. Go on, take it. No need to be shy. The creature huddling into himself, watched without making any movement. The brilliant crimson flower was pushed forward ever so slightly. Where are you going? Are you going far away too? If you are, these flowers are good. They won't die. I made them myself, see? I painted them so nicely. You don't have to be afraid, they're only paper. The stranger looked up at the girl with a harrowed face. His mouth hung open slightly, but not a word escaped. Perhaps it had been so long the thing forgot how to speak. His arms loosened around his knees, uncurling from his cocoon. Are you going far away like me? Not really. Oh, me and Mama and Papa and everyone, we've got a long way to go. We're all going to the great beyond. Do you have a ticket? You have to hold it tight, or you can't get there. That's what I heard. You don't talk a lot, do you? Sorry. She was so bold, it was difficult for the stranger to reply. His voice came out cracked, as if the words had been abandoned on a dusty shaft, and he was just now pulling them down. She sighed in annoyance. She was so lively for somebody fresh off the mortal coil. Her form was confident and colorful. The girl knew herself completely. If you're going to be mousy about it, yeah, mousy, I'll just, no, wait, tentatively, he reached out. The girl's eyes widened as she saw the skin between his gloves and coat was studded with black tendrils. The marks made their way up his arm and disappeared beneath the cloth. Inky black tendrils, darker than the darkest nights. Stings of something sinister had embedded itself into his skin. It was digging deeper than she could see. Jesus. But still his hand was outstretched. Hurry up, it's time to go. The trolley was slowed down to a stop. The voices simmered down into anxious whispers, and the crowd timidly began to filter through the door and into the great beyond. The motorman, a level-headed beast, nodded at each glittering ticket before permitting the passenger to leave. White cat after white cat quietly disappeared. Hurry now. The flower girl's parents stood at the end of the trolley, beckoning her to come with them. It's time for me to go. Make sure to hold on to your ticket, alright? She quickly pressed the flower into his hand. Not just that, but she set her basket down in front of him before turning and rushing after the remnants of the crowd. The last of the souls filtered out of the trolley, the spattering of dropped flowers across the floor, the only evidence of their journey. The bright clamor that was bordering on deafening, the bright clamor that was bordering on deafening had now been sucked away. Just empty air and the lightest hum of electric lights. Are you heading off, son? The motorman stood patiently at the front. The last passenger shook his head. It wasn't his time. Still a ways to go then. Better get comfortable. The motorman resumed his previous position at the wheel. The stranger turned to the window, where the last of the white cats could be seen, flickering in and out, surrounded by halos of light, heads bent forward in prayer. They formed a line into the cosmos, waltzing off the tracks and into the unknown, with steady steps that betrayed no fear. The colors of their dresses began to fade, and the lines of their faces melted away. The further the souls walked, the more they looked like little white candles until the flames so tiny in the distance became pinpricks, and then nothing. Nothing upon oceans and seas of nothing. The stranger brought the flower up to his nose. He heard that flower smelled nice, but there was nothing. You only feel the stagnant air with the electric hum tumbling through it. One day, I'll be a candle too. I'll burn bright and disappear like that. It was a wonderful thought to go out with the halo just the same. But looking at his wrist, the one bleeding with an inky black darkness that could not be scrubbed away, he knew that was a ridiculous wish. He tugged at his sleeve and leaned back. Out of heaven and into his own personal hell. Dang. If you were to look up in the sky that night, you might have been able to catch it. A small streak of light and the softest whisper of wheels turning, weaving itself between a cluster of stars. On and on it went. The car that delivered souls to the great beyond, never slowing down or missing a stop. The dependable, the inevitable, the mostly unseen, with his last living passenger and his basket of flowers that would never die. Dang, this seems hard already. I love the style that it's going for. I don't believe this game is as long as Midnight on the Milky Way Express. Oh, a place of partings and prayers. It appears it was once a place of worship, but the hands of space and time eroded its borders until it became nothing but a pile of rubble. The place was repurposed by the Bureau as a stop for various vehicles along the Galactic railways. It is a quiet, somber place, but it's rumored that visiting it will bring good fortune. Sankaja's Crossing? Sunrise. Alright. Oh, I gotta press this down here. Stepping off the trolley and onto the path, the traveler was greeted with a decaying ruin bathed in the sunless light. The motorman who had left him asleep in the seats could be seen squatting near the edge of the rubble. Near the edge of the rubble with another uniformed worker. A chill ran through him. It's too cold. I tried to stay up, but the ride was too long. It's cold now. I shouldn't have fallen asleep. He clenched one shaking hand across his chest, and the other, nothing could be done about the other. He had brought the basket of flowers with him, and something in him refused to let it go. That's what's called a gift, right? and I can't just leave it behind. If I do, it'll be like they were never there at all. A chill resurfaced. It was perhaps better to walk around than return to the ghostly memory of the night before. Okay. You can, oh yeah, you can see my mouse. Sitting at the edge of the Galactic shore, the motor beast from the last trolley and a man made of soot were chatting happily to each other. It seemed to be a ritual of theirs, established after many years on the rail. With their lunch tins situated between them, the two motormen sat comfortably, watching the stars. Strangely, they ignored the benches in favor of squatting. Finally woke up, did you? Did you? Sounds like those sweet dreams tossed you like a haystack, sack? Tragedy, so the comments bidding. How are you now, pup? Bootstraps been pulled, eh? Oh, I don't have any bootstraps. And the comet did fly overhead, missing its sanctuary yonder. What are you talking about? As pulled as they can be, I say. It flew as brilliantly as any comet would, for sparking away as every comet should. Ignore him, pup. 'Tis literally pain in my RCs. It speaks in rhymes and riddles. Oh, I can choose to talk to. Oh, I can click quite a lot. I'm sure I can click everything, but we'll save to make sure. Let's click on this guy. This one's interesting. Even with a talking walrus in his audience, the sooty figure was far stranger. He was dressed in a well-ironed, if not well-worn, railway uniform. His scarf tucked into his crisp collar with care. Notably, the mouth of his sleeves was as sooty as the ground below him. Flickers of lights could be seen flashing where his mouth should be. He brought chunks of coal from his lunchbox up to his face, and chomp! It disappeared with a spark. Huh. And what do you got here? Long nights of poison, pup. So we bask in our remedies that poison us further. The walrus took a swig from one of the bottles, and a cloud of steam escaped his whiskers. Instantly, his face became serene. Candied, brain-deed, spick and span-deed. Sonny, you don't make a lick of sense. Here, take a swig and come to your senses. Oh, they're just getting plastered. The juxtaposed tin boxes were overflowing with strange little morsels. There's a couple translation issues you probably noticed, like that said strangled little morsels, and there's like just a couple things, but I'll try to like just correct it if I see it. On the left, there was a bundle of emptied shells and skewered fleshy blobs. On the right, cold. Aye, pup, want a bite? I'm not hungry. Suit yourself. As the walrus barked, the sooty creature joyfully popped a lump of coal into his mouth. There's a flash of lights from his seams and a small puff of satisfaction. The walrus's dark, twinkling eyes scanned the stranger up and down. His gaze rested on the basket of flowers, and he chuckled softly. Aye, paper flowers. I made them as a kid. Me mum was too sick for working, so we'd sit and make paper flowers day in and day out. Me flippers, I tell ye, blistered and blue, but I can't hate them. No, I can't hate them a bit. His face remained peaceful, even with such a painful memory. I can check the night sky. Right, is it just the same dialogue if I click one of you again? Or like is it... Oh, okay. East covered in darkness too. Maybe that's what happened to me. But he doesn't seem sick at all. In reflection of the reflector was greeted with the sordid specter. Features copied, visitors carried, but only one visage was buried. No, that's definitely a sickness. He's seriously ill. I think so too. Okay. So can I just interact with things twice? Take a sip, won't you? It'll calm your nerves. It looks warm, but I'll just get sick again. I want to get warm, though. I can seize it on your face, pup. No worries, no worries. The journey's long, so you better plump up while you still can. Plumper and plumper. The galaxy is a harsh mistress, pup. Tragedy most plumpy. I get older and the flowers stay younger. One day I'll be whittling and those flowers of years will be as new as the day they were bloomed. What do you think about that, pup? I don't think anything about it. Strange one you are, pup. Put a little more time on the rails and you'll see the ways of wilting and blooming. Let me look at the night sky. Oh, just take me out. All right. Nice. What's the signs? In contrast to the ruins behind them, the signs look comparatively new. The lettering was scratched and the paint was chipping around the top, but they still bore the bureau insignia with mildly worn pride. They read, Ganymede, 500 knots. Gemini Strides, 1,200 knots. 20. Please have your tickets ready for departure. May fate lead you to the light, and may the light have mercy on you. I've always wondered what that meant. But I'd rather have mercy on the life. The line between the dark and the rebel was dotted with peculiar handmade fishing poles. The poles were held up by humble piles of stone. String was knotted to the ends, the line cast far, far off into the ocean of space, with no movement besides that of the solar wind. I saw something like this on a mission once. They're for catching trouts, but I thought you could only catch those in water. I haven't seen any trout out here. Is there something else? The traveler kneeled to look over the edge, but alas, no trout, just darkness with a few specks of light. Yeah, so we can just go examine this giant altar. Maybe long ago it was a magnificent place. Maybe there were sermons, maybe there was singing. The walls are painted in gorgeous murals of saintly beings, sorry. And the windows certainly caught lights with wondrous color. But it was clear that everything described was wiped away by some lost incident, as tragic as war or mundane as the passage of time. One could only stand and wait for answers that nobody remembered. Both the glory and the downfall had been wiped from memory. It's like a giant bell right there, so yeah, it was something. Perhaps just from time, eventually withered. And finally, there was the glittering sky. There were countless railways streaking across it with more souls flying along than one could imagine. Is she still out there? No, I watched her disappear. No matter how hard he looked, the flower girl would never reappear. There was something further beyond the stars, something nobody could see. But even so, the stranger tilted his head upward. Skies like these were all the same. There was simply no end in sight. SOREKARA journey. That's like a cool little screen. No sleeping here. The exhaustion was becoming unbearable. The motormen were tending to their trolleys and there was no sign they'd be leaving anytime soon. The stranger had resorted to wandering in circles on the shore. The sky had remained the same, twinkling dark the entire time. Here, it was easy to believe that the sunrise would never come and that the trolleys would never depart. But there was one foreign element, the scent of something burning. What is that? A thin strand of smoke was twisting through the air. Twisting, turning, tumbling, from the end of a cigarette in the mouth of a man, watching the false horizon, hands deep in his pockets and body completely still. His weight rested on the remains of the building behind him. The image was so tranquil that the wanderer felt he should even be there. His presence was like smudging your thumb across a fine oil painting. Interesting. Time came to a halt. Every brushstroke was perfectly in place. Then... Why do you... This design reminds me of someone. I don't know who though. The smoking man's eyes flickered to the side, and the wary stranger became a part of painting as well. The man's hands went not to the box in his breast pocket, but to the inside of his coat, where he produced a little metal box of cigarettes. He cracked it open and held it out. A peace offering, a welcoming gift. It was a familiar gesture the stranger still failed to fully comprehend. But the image of the girl on the trolley surfaced, and his hand went to the basket at his side. He stretched out his arm just the same. A bud of paper pinched between the fingers, the petals painted red and bright. For me? For you. The man's lackadaisical, I've never seen that word, I'm sorry, smile broke into a stifled laugh. He gritted his teeth down harder around his cigarette so it wouldn't go flying off in the middle of his fit. To think fortune would come my way now of all times. That's real sweet. Thank you kindly. He plucked the flower from the stranger's hand. After a moment of thought, tucked it behind his ear. The stranger watched nervously, taking the cigarette after a beat. Underneath was a slip of silver, the same as the ones he'd seen on the previous ride. So he's going far away too. How do I look? He's still talking to me. Everyone's talking so much this trip. What does he want? Am I supposed to answer every time? I don't have anything to say. This is hard. Way too hard. You look red. Well, thanks, I think. Here, let me give you a light. Following the lead of the other man, the stranger leaned against the crumbling wall and took a good, deep inhale. The basket of flowers was set aside. What is it supposed to be? It tastes dirty. It burns a little. You doing all right there, bud? It tastes like a fireplace. Well, exhaling normally helps. Why don't you give it a go? It tastes the same. It's in my nose. What kind of place you have to come from not to know about cigarettes? I figure with your looks, you'd be a fiend for them. Where did you come from? That was a difficult question. How could he answer in a way that made sense? Even the memory of the place was enough to freeze him over. I'm not from anywhere. But instead of pressing further, the man simply let the moment pass and blew out a sleepy puff of smoke. His eyes ghosted the horizon. It was a look the stranger had seen many a times on the wayward passengers. One that was not quite sad, not quite happy, just a little far away. Same here. Pretty lucky that we should meet, huh? I've met a few people out here. They're plenty nice, but they've all got places to be. He cut himself off with another deep drag. Well, Mr. Nowhere, you let me call you something, won't you? I don't have anything to say. I can't use that name anymore. But he doesn't seem to mind whatever I say. And I won't see him after this, so it doesn't really matter. You can call me Vash. Pleasure to meet you, Vash. People call me Rose. Name goes on a little longer, but it's better to cut it short, don't you agree? It's fine. So harsh. Ouch. It wasn't so bad, watching the sky with somebody you've never met. It was just then, that pocket of time before the sunrise that might never come, that he felt he would like to be that way forever. Sitting, smoking, talking around things carelessly, even if the taste is licking a fireplace. But in the space between the sea of stars and deep blue, there was a crack where Vash could see time ticking away. The silver in the cigarette case, it was like all the others before. It was a mark of something. So, you're going far away? That I am. Don't really know what that means, though. Sound like they give you a pamphlet. You? I can't yet. Well, that's good. Although you ought to spend your time elsewhere. Guys like me are no good. No, you are good. Oh, me? You're a good person. I'm a good person. Hey, maybe I could even be the best person. Probably not. Whatever you say. Ross tossed aside his cigarette and bent down to sit side by side with Vash. He tapped his temple and with a knowing grin tilted his head to the shore. That itself was inexplicable. The sound of waves was coming from a place with no water. Dipping your hand was old and nothing more than cold air. That's trippy. It's really interesting of how this reality works, that everything is not necessarily real. Well, everything's real. It's just everything functions weirdly. But there was a face obscured by the reflected stars. There was a nose and eyes and mouth, but they were out of place due to the shifting air. It all swirled together to create an unrecognizable impression. I've been wondering about this the whole time. A person? Nope, better. An angel, see? He gestured to the mist. Around the mess of features was a faint whites, and above head was what might have been a halo. Vash furrowed his brow. I suppose you can see it. I don't understand. Am I supposed to be looking at something specific? So I was thinking, it's probably reflected from up there. He pointed to the wall behind them, smiling more than ever. Hidden away, all secret-like. Ain't that something? There's a little mystery for the two of us. You can look at it fine here. But it's all mysterious. Don't it make you curious? Not really. Loosen up, tough guy. Say it makes you curious. Go on. So curious. That was way too easy. I just did what he said. I don't see the problem here. His face is too much. Wait, do me a favor and spin around 3 times. Hop on one leg. Give me a little song and dance while you're at it. Are you having fun? Just trying to see how gullible you are. Gullible. You know, how well you can bark. Wolf? Oh dear. You better watch yourself on those rails, friend. You could fall in with some very dangerous crowds. Anywho, upsy daisy. Suddenly the man bent his knees and held out his cupped hands with an expectant look. In response, Vash's hands went to the basket another time. What? No! You're going up. Come on, be a dear and take a look for me, won't you? You couldn't look for yourself. I couldn't, unless you think you could lift me up a good 6 feet. I'm sorry to break it to you, Tiger, but you look like you're struggling to lift that basket of yours. Now quit being ornery and hop on. As if anticipating a burn, he hesitantly stepped onto the other man's hand. Hey, you know you're as light as a bird, right? You eat at all? I try not to. What? No, that's no good. It's one thing if you don't got money, but it's another if you do it on purpose. Push me up more. I can't see it yet. I was telling you something important. Yeah, oh, wow, this was like a mural, I suppose. A face peeked out to meet Vash's own. Actually, there were 2 faces. Tucked away behind the stone was a person bent over in prayer, and above them, another was extending their arms with their lips. Oh, sorry. It's like 3 a.m. Extending their arms with their lips nearly pressed to the forehead. It was completely untarnished. The rest of the building was in shambles. This spot alone was safe. The colors as bright as the day was painted. The image felt like something he shouldn't see. The hands around the face made his chest hurt, and the distance between the two was eliminated with a kiss. But still, somebody had painted it, and they had placed it where the two could see the sunrise. You find anything up there? It's here. It was just on the inside. On the inside? All secret-like. No way. It's a secret dirty picture, ain't it? No, it's clean up here. I don't see any scratches or dirt. Yeah. Well, tell me about the angel. It's the one with rings, right? Who decided that? And that thing on his head, it makes no sense. If they knew what angels were really like, they wouldn't be so impressed. They have feathers like a bird, and this golden thing on their head. The halo. The halo. And there's a normal person too. They seem to be very close. Is that like a priest or something? Like his clothes is like an old priest outfit in the medieval times. So it is a dirty picture. Ross, what's so good about angels? You really have to ask? Actually, I hadn't thought about that far. But if you meet one, you'll be blessed and have lots of good luck. Less an angel of death, of course. If you meet one of those, well, that's what they say. It doesn't matter at this point. Even if it's an angel of death, I don't think I would mind. People spend their whole lives looking for miracles. It would only make sense to come across something like that eventually. I don't have any place to complain. What's one more tragedy? Just being able to say, I met one, would be enough for me. You're easy to please. It's because I'm such a good guy. What was that? From the wall came a sharp scratching sound and several coos. There was a distinctive ruffling of feathers, and Vash fell back in surprise. Oh God, it's pigeons! Two white birds burst forth from the wall and flew over Vash's shoulders. As they passed, he could feel their feathers brush the sides of his face. He saw whites in a glittering sky, and then he knew his body was crashing down. Vash! Splash. At least you're not getting wet. Or I think you are kind of wet because your hair looks droopy. There was the unmistakable sound of water, despite nothing but cool air meeting his skin. Underneath was the depths of space, but somehow he didn't fall through. Vash sat on the edge of the universe, the red paper flowers knocked over by the commotion, sinking into the sound of the shore. Hey, are you alright? I was worried you were spinning off to space. The flowers there. The flowers the girl had so lovingly crafted were being carried away. Some were even sinking beneath the illusionary waves, drifting off into the dark till they disappeared from sight. The flowers, the cats, everyone and everything, they floated into the dark, leaving Vash behind. He turned over to catch the falling buds, but Ross's footsteps made him stop. Just leave them be. Don't want you falling in too. They were a gift. Look up a second, why don't you? Vash lifted his head and he saw... Oh, Jesus. How did I miss that? A brilliant, impossible sunrise. Out in that abandoned little stop between nowhere and nothing. The sun rose over the glittering ocean of stars. It didn't make sense for it to happen. Perhaps it was a mirage? Time here was a mere suggestion. But no matter how impossible, the sun still rose and two travelers watched as the light blanketed everything in a beautiful, fresh glow. Every crater was illuminated, every scar was uncloaked. The air around Vash shimmered as if it was water catching stars. For the first time, Vash was bathed in light. Beautiful. I haven't seen this happen before. I mean, I didn't think it would happen. Were you looking this whole time? I was thinking this would be a nice place for a sunrise. But I had to say, it was probably an angel's doing. False oceans, false angels, false sunrises, and a man who would believe it all. The whimsical talk was difficult to stomach. But somehow, maybe it was an angel after all. That's the spirit. Ross pulled the flower from behind his ear and held it out. The last of her gift. The rest had floated away. You can keep it. You sure? It's even important to you. It was a gift. It's supposed to be given away, I think. So you can have it. It's like Christmas Day for me. Christmas? You really did come from nowhere. Come on, let's get you out of there. With one hand, he stuck the flower into his pocket. With the other, he offered assistance. Out of the ocean, back onto land. The face of the angel sparkled more than ever in the glow of the impossible sunrise. Oh. That was nice. Beautiful. Really like this game so far. Oh god. Horror! Lines eroding. Lines eroding. The body was eroding. Without a body to contain it, was pouring out. Blank. Rivers and lakes and oceans was pouring out of the body and into the air. No, it wasn't even air. Just nothing. So much nothing that sound could not travel through it. That was crushed into a fine powder as soon as it bled out. Crushed, absorbed, withering away. Blown apart by airless wind. A whistle of pain squeezed out of and died before it was even born. There was a ferocious chill that tore away at the dust of the remains, but he could not feel it, no. Just nothing forever. Just a sensation on a body that wasn't there anymore. He was bodiless and voiceless, but he could feel his teeth and tongue and the port between them. What happens to a voice that has nowhere to go? Because of this place, he knew. It makes circles in the sky forever and ever. Circles of sadness that nobody sees. Help me! One terrible cry followed another. Vash threw himself up from his seats and fell back down immediately as his legs gave way. The sound of the floorboards, the creak of the wheels, the grind of metal against metal clashed horribly with the harsh crack booming right out the window. Everything was zapped in the electric purple lights before sinking into darkness again and again. He'd woken up to a terrible thing. He woke up to a terrible thrashing. The panicked travelers struggled to stay in the seats as the car thundered and screamed. A rain. How is it raining in the absolute universe? What is happening? How is that possible? What is it raining? A rain of snapping came against the window behind him, and he saw blistering hot bullets of shattered meteor pelting the glass before burning away. Oh, meteorite, of course. Burning brighter and brighter, and then darkness over and over. It's cold. In the ribbons of light, he saw his glove. It had pulled itself nearly off his fingers. Black rivers in his skin. Black like the dream he kept seeing, like the thing buried at the center of his chest. And from these rivers, pouring out, help me, help me, help me, somebody, please. Another bolt of lightning hit the rails, and in that brief flash, Vash saw a hand reaching out. Who's? We talked at the last stop. God, you're shaking to pieces. Just sit tight, okay? Through the rapturous din came careful steps. 1, 2, 3. Careful through the storm. The sound disappeared when the car shook and returned when it was safe to move. Vash sat fearfully, trying to judge the distance, but the chill took him again, and when he saw the fingertips reach the square of lights from the window, he found himself scrambling forward to catch them. Wait a minute, I'll come to you. Sit right there or you'll hurt yourself. But the starved and freezing traveler still threw his hand forward and made contact. His glove had fallen away someplace during the turbulence, so that there was nothing that came between them. Vash thought of the inky black rivers that wound up his wrist and into the palm of his hands. He thought how he should find his glove and cover them up. He pictured that sickness somehow calling from him to this kind person, who grabbed his wrist and sat down beside him as the meteors penetrated the ceiling. He thought of it, but he couldn't move the way he wanted to. Shaking and confused, he searched the other man's hand with his fingers until in his desperation, he brought the hand up to his face and stayed there quietly as the storm continued. Just like kissing this guy's hand, thank you so much. The chill began to melt. The movement all around him calmed, and miraculously the thundering of the rails faded away as soon as he followed the sound of life in his hand. His thumb moved to the wrist and he was met with a slow, steady beating. There, it's just a storm. A fierce one for sure, but the drivers say they aren't dangerous. The lights show at most. It's nothing to worry about. Look there. Ross made a sound and Vash glanced to get around. Sorry. Ross made a sound. Vash glanced across the car to see one of the windows had been cracked up, open slightly. A few meteorite pellets fell through the crack and fizzled brightly on the ground below. See? No worse than a bee sting. It's all bark. It's pouring out. Just a little. It's not so bad. It's pouring out and I can't make it stop. I get cold all the time and I'm tired, but I can hear it. There's a sound in there. You mean my heartbeat? The pelting of the meteors and the heartbeat both came together in a steady rhythm. The wide expanse of dark that was once pouring out felt a little more contained, at least in the hand of the stranger. Ross, you know the angel we saw. What about it? Is that really the way we look to you? Do people really think angels have wings and halos, that we fly around and give blessings? I don't understand at all. Who decided that? Who told that lie? It's not like that. That place you call heaven. It's colder than you can imagine. You've all been lied to. The angels you believe in never existed. Ash, what are you? I got thrown away, Ross. When an angel doesn't do things right, they get thrown away. And there aren't any wings or halos or blessings or heartbeats. It's just cold all the time. It's a Vash is, I would say, a fallen angel. We have fallen angel, and just to toss out one, man. I was not expecting that. The words came tumbling out. The angels hadn't spoken so much his entire life, and now his voice wouldn't stop. So much was pent up from the years in captivity. It was overtaking my bitter memories. The steely commands and faraway looks and overwhelming sense of loneliness became angry tears in someone else's hand. The strongest sensation of all was the moment he was tossed away. As if a knife had cut something out of him, and the wound was pouring out ever since. I wish I'd died back there instead of this. Hey, listen. There it was, the same steady beating. Even with the car being tossed about, it stayed the same. The angels waited. What do you think about that, huh? Sounds pretty real, but that's a lie too. Because somewhere, my real body is 6 feet under. There wasn't a drop of bitterness in his voice. It was as if his mind was made up long ago. Or as if he was talking about someone else entirely. With the way his mouth twitched, he looked like he could even laugh. I'd always heard stories about what happens when you die, but I never thought it'd be like this. It's not that bad. Even if the trip is long, even if angels don't have wings, it's not that bad at all. I don't gotta live anymore, and I get to keep my heartbeat too. And if that helps someone, then I've done at least one good thing. Vash's eyes turned up, and he saw a man was looking back at him. Half his face was illuminated by the dissipating storm. The car was now a soft purple as the lightning strikes continued to hit, albeit gentler, with the ear-splitting cracks reduced to a whisper. His expression was the same as when they'd first met, calm and without judgment. But Vash thought of the rubble of the previous stop, and how the sunrise had washed over it. How it was beautiful, and how much it looked like a graveyard. Don't say things like that. You can't just laugh. Not after that. I can, because I got to be an angel after all. I told you. It's like Christmas Day. It doesn't matter to you what kind of angel I am? Nope. You really are a good person. If you say it, I'll believe it. The man reached his arm around the angel, and then he was all around him. Vash suddenly became aware of how cold he was with that warmth, how much he shook in stillness, how empty he was with the echo reverberating through him. He knew he was empty, but the lack of distance made it difficult to tell what belonged to who. Pouring in, pouring out. Lines eroded, but it held in place. Somewhere, from the pocket, perhaps a gentle melody played. After the storm, the weary traveler let his head fall forward and took solace in a borrowed heartbeat. Chapter 2. Phantom at noon. This game might be a lot longer than we thought, actually. Light poured from the window along with the delicate scent of flowers. Everything in the car was bathed in a gentle glow. The driver at the front was crackling to himself softly, and his only two passengers were spending the ride relaxing in the sun. It was an undeniably odd arrangement. Every day, the two would play cards or stare out the window and eat their meals at a distance, one man on either side of the car. When come time for bed, Vash would walk up wordlessly and claim some part of the man for himself. What does that mean? Well, I guess it probably mean they cuddle, but that sounds a little strange reading it. Not strange, just like, huh? His arm, back, knee, whatever it was, he threw his head down on it and refused to move until his 8 hours were up. Oh, that's kind of sweet in a way. He would ball up his fists and squeeze his eyes shut. It looked like he was eating something sour. He never let out so much as a whimper like that. It was a completely odd arrangement, but Ross hadn't pushed him off yet, so it continued. This feeling is pretty familiar. What's it? It's like when you give a dog a chicken leg at the dinner table and they take it as an invitation. Yep, that's what it is. Practically ignores me the whole dang day and then crawls back when he needs something. Even a dog wouldn't do that. That's a cat thing. We'll be making a stop for maintenance in due time, passengers. Until maintenance ends, you'll be free to wander as you wish. Suddenly, the trolley screeched to a stop, and any poor passengers enjoying the day was thrown off their seats and onto the hard wooden floorboards with startling force. Ah! And so the star-crossed comets flew into space and out of view. Dear Lord, how about a warning next time, yeah? In due time, is what I said. This is all to wake the sleepyhead. It's like Vash's full body, actually. We haven't seen this. More than. Good news to you too, Mr. Gat. How's your noggin? I believe you dove face first, thanks to our host skills at the wheel. My noggin? Does Vash have like elf ears? If you look closely, like, I think, is sleepy. An artist with words, aren't you? Swaying on his feet, Vash reached out a gloved hand to catch Ross' sleeve. What's it now? Please, let me borrow this. My arm? Nod. Somewhere in the back, Sidhat was snickering to himself. Dear Lord, I've gone too far. He doesn't just think he gets to dinner. Now he thinks he can get breakfast and lunch too. Totally shameless. Quick, Ross, we'll shake the guy off. Alright, but you got bark for it. Woof. Are you gonna fall for that every time? Oh, you really have no shame at all, do you? But I do. I have a lot of shame. Look, Vash, I was just... stick a sock in this city. Time was ticking, die or cast. The candle's flame were sure to last. And with that, the strange motorman scudded away with a puff of soot behind him. What a weird guy. It'd help if he said things normally. But he's off spouting nonsense left and right. I guess it kind of makes sense. He's just speaking in poems for 24/7 for some reason. It's kind of cool. And then there's you, worrying me all over the place. Hey, Vash, you gonna let go of my arm anytime soon? Sleepy. Where's he going? Hand still in an iron grip on his sleeve, the angel's eyes fluttered close as they entered a restful slumber. Get up already. It was a completely odd arrangement, but the days had become so peaceful since their meeting, neither one could argue with the results. End of a journey. Noon. Oh, meadow of baby's breath. Because of the shifting nature of the fields, this area can only be entered by accident, and thus is not properly documented. Travelers have reported seeing ghostly figures wandering the horizon. In more extreme cases, recreations of bygone memories have lured travelers deeper into the fields. It is suspected that the area is not a physical place, but instead its own sentient entity. Creepy. But Meadow of Baby's Breath is a weird name for a sentient place, but hey, it's cool. Oh, that's a nice picture. The curtains of endless The curtains of endless night had transformed into something else entirely. The chilly winds became nothing more than a warm breeze, and the pinprick of stars were replaced with a spray of baby's breath. What the frick is baby's breath? Sitting on the top of the trolley with the invisible sun beating down, Ross took a deep drag of a freshly lit cigarette. He held it to the motorman. Want a puff? He was met with a small wave. Suit yourself. Looking up, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. There weren't any buildings around either, just small dots that might have been trees. The distance made it impossible to tell. The wide open space, combined with the absolute soundlessness, created an unexpected feeling of unease. Just as it seemed, the sunrise would never come at the previous stop. Here, the night was all too far away. This place is putting me in a bad mood. It's a bunch of grass, Ross. No need to get worked up. But the silence and a cigarette weren't doing him any good. Here, things were a little greener, a little softer, but they still carried that same empty, out-of-place feeling. Like if you were calling out to someone, they would never answer back. Just a voice on the breeze with no place to go. There's no point in thinking of it. There never was. No bones, no dust. I doubt the field is there anymore. The melancholy was cut short by a yelp from down below. This man can't sleep on his own. Ross leaned over an instant while stood had to offer nothing more than his usual relaxed cackle. Underneath their feet, Vash was shuffling through a cloud of bobbing soot. What the frick is that? There's small sparks of fire, lights intersped high-pitched, eerily familiar crackling. Well, I'll be dang, said Hat. He never told me I had kids. Not kin, but compatriots, my comment. As we too lay like kings, my friends work where my hands cannot reach and my eyes do not see. Don't be racist. Observe. The strange motorman made circles in the air with his finger. Faster and faster, he went, and miraculously, the gaggle of soot creatures below made rings in time. He drew his finger up further, and with a flick of his wrist, the soot's fog froze around Vash, who stood petrified. His fingers produced a snap and a shock of light that commanded the crowd to scramble away. Under the trolley, and through the windows, and out of sight they went, leaving Vash standing awkwardly in a puddle of soot. Oh, that's real impressive. So you're the boss of those little guys. The boss of bosses. Although the bureau does not compensate me as such. So even Sooty has his own little tragedies. Tragedy most plump comments. Vash finally found his place on top of the trolley alongside the others. What happened to the train conductor? The walrus, what happened to him? He brushed off the sides of his arms nervously, searching for a residual soot, exhaustion still wearing on his face. That was scary. Hopefully that scare woke you up a little. Hey, aren't you warm? You're bundled up in that coat like we're still out in space. I'm cold. It's practically summer out here. Sooty gets to wear a big coat. Why can't I? That's because Sooty is a weirdo. He gets to do what he wants. Also, he's the boss. Dare you question the boss of bosses? Yeah, the boss of bosses. Is that how it works? So if I become the boss of bosses, I can wear a coat anytime I want. I think I understand now what it is I must do. At times like these, the angel's exhaustion would disappear to reveal a mischievous smile. I have to kill Soot Hat and take his coat, and so I become boss of bosses. Even Sooty had to take a moment to parse the situation, but when he did, he simply nudged Ross, who in turn gave Vash's forehead a small flick. No scheming allowed. Were you actually thinking about killing him? That would make you the boss of bosses. Finished with the scolding, he passed the cigarette to Vash, who took it without thinking. It took only one puff for Vash to pass it right back. After some thought, the question finally came forth. So, Vash, where are you going? Where? I mean, I'm heading off to this great beyond thing. Sooty here is driving, and you? Oh, don't be like that. I don't mean to imply you aren't welcome. It's just, the trip is going to be pretty long. Isn't there some place you'd like to go? Something you'd like to do? There isn't anything. Once again, there was that sad expression.
like a dog in the rain. His arms instinctively wrapped around his knees, and he looked as depressing as the night the two first met. Realistically, they would have to part at some point, but seeing Vash go blank made it difficult to ask any questions. To him, any such discussion stung as bad as the moment he was tossed away. I'm sorry, Vash. We'll talk about it another time. Hey, maybe on this trip you'll find something you like. How's that sound? Nod. The weight was finally lifted, or at least temporarily staved off. A light flashed behind Vash's eyes. He turned to speak at the sudden realization. There is something I like. Oh, that's great. I like sleeping with you. What? The comments are flying rather close now. I mean, well, gosh, that's sweet. Except you can't just say stuff like that. Did I do something wrong? No. Just, people get the wrong ideas, all. I didn't lie. We sleep together all the time, Ross. Sure, you didn't lie, Vash, but how do I say it? I'm gonna get a post-mortem heart attack like this. I really did pick up an angel of death. But dang it if you don't look sad. You know what? It's no problemo. What's the little skinship between friends? I was overthinking. A beat, then two. The moment of truth. Then we're friends? We're not. I shudder, you subbag. It's been so long since the comments of me and Light show. What joy indeed. I feel like I did something wrong. 'Twas only the natural path of your own heart, wayward comments. Such is the way of things. Oh, my screen again. I let you drool on my leg all those nights. Hey, you don't even call me your buddy? That's what I get for being easy. You are easy. I refuse to be surprised by anything that comes out of your pie hole starting now. Peaceful days like these had become routine. Laying on top of the trolley with good company, good weather, and not a worry in the world. It felt overwhelmingly luxurious, enough to give the smoking man a stomachache. No use in feeling sour, no use in going back. The scent of flowers made his mouth curl up on reflex. Kicking the bucket was the best thing that ever happened to me, huh? I'm happy like this, with people who think I'm such a good guy. He breathed in until the cigarette was down to his fingers, and snuffed out the remains on the bottom of his boot. Something was there. Is that a laugh? It's a woman. The horizon was fenced with intelligible figures, but standing there unmistakably was another person. She looked like a cloud about to blow away. Her white dress billowed around her as she twirled around her parasol like a halo around her head. Her face was obscured by a veil of white, so that every feature was smudged away by its movement. The baby's breath, the sound of the sky, and now the woman. This little slice of paradise knew he was here, and now they were twisting the knife. Ross! Two pairs of hands caught his shoulders. Sooties and Vash both urgent with their grip. They were the only things preventing Ross from tumbling face first off the roof of the trolley. Yikes! That was a close one. This place is out to get me, I swear it. Maintenance better end soon. Heeding the siren's call, the wary sailor lent his ear. Down the ocean waves he'd fall, the honeyed words the last he'd hear. All right, I'll be careful. I'm just tired from a certain somebody tossing me around in my sleep. Sorry. No sorries allowed. For good measure, Ross reached out and ruffled the poor angel's hair. Yeah. Guys enough to worry about. Just keep yourself in check, Ross. I'm going in for a while. Maybe some shade will do me some good. He pulled himself up, stretched, and used the ladder at the edge of the roof to lower himself. The grass beneath his boots greeted him with soft whispers. The woman on the horizon was gone. Trains of thoughts are troubling. Oh, hey, Sonny, how'd you get her so quiet? The rails demanded comment, but I must inquire. Did you perhaps see anything? Just more grass, really. What is to be expected of a soul such as yours? Wayward comments. It is the way of things, yes indeed. And just as suddenly as he appeared, the unnerving creature bounced away through the doors of the trolley. His usual cloud of soot was left in his wake. Nothing was pushed any further, and for that Ross gave a relieved sigh. Well, there's at least one person here who still thinks I'm a good guy. Did you kill a woman, Ross? He headed to the trolley after him, grateful for the silence that ensued. But before closing the door, he heard a whooshing, the unmistakable sound of wind through fabric, with laughter to follow it. It knows I'm here. He thought that as he slumped onto one of the benches, covering his face in his coat like a curtain. Whooshing, whooshing, whooshing. No, just a familiar lullaby. He pushed out the rest of the world for the song that came from the breast pocket in his only coat. Sorry. Oh, hello, traveler. You come to the end of the current build. Don't worry, more's on the way. The secret of the phantoms, the ocean starlight, the city of shadows, and bittersweet goodbyes. You'll meet them all in due time. Keep your eyes to the skies, traveler. The two lonely souls will surely find their way again. And that's the end of SOREKARA. This is a game I really liked. It was only like an hour. Like it was only an hour of playtime, so it's a lot shorter than the other one. It's not like a full complete thing. And I don't know if this game is gonna complete. I hope it does. But like, to give a little context, hold on. Okay, yes, sorry, I had to do a little research because I was curious myself, because the game SOREKARA is over a year old. It's kind of it's not a super old game, but it's a bit old, so I didn't know the development had stopped. The development in this game is still in the works. There was like a devlog post that he did like in like May, and he was like, yeah, you know, it's been a little bit, so but I am still working on the game. There's gonna be 7 chapters in total. That devlog update he made included some chapters that I played through here, because there was 3 or 4 in this thing, and he updated this game and put some more chapters in it. So the rest of the game will be out. I don't know when, because he said it's his biggest project, so it might be in 2025, it might be before that. I don't really know when exactly, but I'll definitely play it. As soon as it comes out, I'll definitely play it. I really enjoy this game. It's really sweet. I love the story and the characters, and the art style is, I mean, just absolutely beautiful, as you can see. So hope you enjoyed it as well. I just want to kind of put a visual novel in here after playing the other one, because I really enjoyed that one. This was kind of like a sequel, or maybe a spiritual sequel in a sense. So I did want to play it, do something else, because I really love this author's work. Like, he's amazing at what he does, and I hope you guys had a good time watching it as well. I do have still a lot of big videos planned. This October will probably be my biggest month with videos. I'm planning to get a Feared Hunger video essay out, a Silent Hill full gameplay, like just me playing all of Silent Hill in one video, just to like make some long funny video, just Silent Hill, me playing the whole thing. The old one, the original Silent Hill, because I'm too broke for the new one. And Secret of Fire, Dark Souls. Secret of Fire, Dark Souls, all the footage is being completed, so I just need to go edit through that. So that's gonna be out like maybe in a week or 2. So be ready for that as well. So there's a lot of big plans I have for this October. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video, and farewell for now.